All right, hello friends, and happy draft day. And I just cannot drudge up the friggin' optimism. Man, I have done this intro twice already, and the first one was great. Like, it was probably the most positive and awesome, great, just good intro I've done maybe ever since I've been doing the show. And then something went wrong with this stupid piece of shit app, and it deleted and it logged me out. So I have to wait till I get back in phone service, because the driving on this route, I'm out of phone service for a lot of while, so I can log back in. So I do it again. I get that same, or at least close to that same sort of positivity and optimism and whatever going. And what happens? 6 minutes in, it just freezes, and it stops, and it deletes it again. So now I guess I'm back to my more normal sort of mood and tone and whatever. Anyway, happy draft day, everyone. It is a one day a year when every fan base wins. It's all positivity and optimism and blah, blah, blah. It's like Christmas. God, I can't do this again. Man, and it was so great. It really was. You guys missed out on a wonderful intro. And the first one was. The second one even was good. Now, it's just like, let's just get through this. But, dude, anyway, let me try to get back to something like that. Because it really is. It's such a great day. Like, it is the one day when every fan base feels the same level of hope and optimism and positivity that you just don't get. I mean, Super Bowl Sunday is obviously a bigger day. It's almost like a national holiday. And, maybe opening week of the season, you feel a lot of the same. But it's not quite like this, where every fan base can be together and feel the same sort of positivity and optimism and hope. And it really is like just football Christmas. I actually went to the draft when it was in Nashville, or at least for day one, and it was so much fun, and there was so much going on, and it took over the entire city. I met Derrick Henry there. I met Tim Hasselbeck there. And, it was just like we could all feel this same sort of camaraderie and shared hope. And I mean, you can get something like that when you go to a game, I guess, especially if it's like opening week. But you can't get it with everybody. You get it with fans of your team. But in the draft, we're all happy and excited and positive together. And it's just a great day. Even for the fan of a team that's not, picking one or two or expected to take a star receiver or an elite edge rusher or something. I mean, we're expected to take an offensive lineman, the least sexy and exciting pick that you could make in the top 10. But I'm still super excited, and I really, really hope we get Joe Alt. It's just, you don't get this with anything else. I mean, it's the one day when we're all in it together, when we all feel hope for the future. It's got to be a wonderful day if you're a Bears fan. I mean, this is going to be maybe a defining day for their franchise. Well, it is one way or another. But this could be like such a huge, landmark day for that franchise. Same for Washington, really. They've got the number 2 pick. You got to be so excited if you're a Washington fan. You got to be excited if you're a Patriots fan, even though you're probably also a little anxious and nervous, but you're so hopeful and positive. And even for teams that are picking later in the draft, or the teams that are up in the 20s, the teams that are actually already good, you still feel a sort of hope and excitement about, thinking if we could just get this one guy, then that would put us over the top. That would put us, we could win the Super Bowl if we could just, we're missing this one piece. If we get this right, we can do it. And it's a great day. It's a lot of fun. Now, is it overhyped? Yes, very much so. But it's so exciting. I mean, it's just so much fun. I've always loved the draft. I've always loved the draft coverage and analysis. I've always been really into it. And, round one, yes, probably is a little overhyped. Because, I mean, look, if you're not picking in one of those top handful of picks, if you're not taking a quarterback, chances are it's not going to affect your team in the way that you hope, or in the way that it's presented with as much pomp and everything that there is surrounding it. It's probably not really going to, adding Joe Walt, yes, that will hopefully be an anchor, a franchise left tackle for us for the next decade plus. But, all this hype surrounding it, and, most teams are going to get somebody who's maybe who's not even that good. But it's so much fun, and we've got a lot to talk about. I started to, this is going to be a draft show, and I told you guys, I forgot to mention, watch Talking Sports at Work on YouTube at 8 o'clock. We're going to be doing our own live draft coverage. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. We can't actually show the draft. That was my initial plan, but YouTube apparently doesn't like it when you use copyrighted material on your videos, so we can't do that. But we'll just have us on there, so you can watch us on your phone or on your computer or tablet while you watch the draft on the TV, and you'll get, we'll be talking about the teams, we'll be talking about the picks, we'll be talking about the future, we will be playing games, we will be singing karaoke songs, and you will get the sort of in-depth, insightful draft analysis that you can only get from me and my young children. So tune in tonight when you're watching the draft. Join us, Talking Sports at Work on YouTube. We will be live. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, we just get this out of the way. We had some basketball last night. Boston might be in trouble. If this was anybody else, the Heat is just the one team that it feels like they should now be worried with. If they were down 1-1 against I think Milwaukee is maybe the only other team that could give them trouble in the East. But, talking about teams that it's just, they're a definitive underdog, the team you didn't want to run into in the first round, it had to be Miami, given the history there with those two teams in the playoffs, given the fact that Miami just seems to be so tough no matter who's playing for them. Being down 1-1 against just about anybody for the Celtics in round one, I would say, they're fine. Being down 1-1 against Miami, they might need to be a little bit concerned. So anyway, that's my basketball talk. We got that out of the way. Now it's all going to be football stuff from here on out. We've got a lot to talk about. On the docket, we've got the Bears. We've got the Titans, obviously. There's a lot of Penix talk going around. There's a lot of Bengals stuff going on. I'm going through the same thing as usual, where I went through 3 or 4 radio stations before I finally found one that wasn't talking about the damn Cowboys. So we'll probably have to talk about them at some point. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about. Hopefully this intro will save, even though it's not nearly as good as the other two. Sorry about that. So anyway, it's still exciting. I'll see you guys in just a minute. All right, friends, I guess third time's the charm. Seems like that one actually did save. And I hate that you guys missed it. I mean, it wasn't like anything special, it wasn't like, how good could it really be? But it really was. It felt like such a good intro, and I was so excited to talk about everything. And then, just imagine you're excited to do something. You're really excited to do this radio show, this podcast, whatever. You're really excited. You're doing something that you're about to do regularly, but you feel extra special about it today. And then you do it, everything's great, and then it screws up. So you got to do it again. And then you feel okay about that one, and it screws up, and you got to do it again. And so you're dealing with that for the next 20, 30 minutes. That's what my morning has been so far. So please bear with me. I'm going to try to still stay positive and entertaining, hopefully. We got a lot on the docket. It's all draft stuff, pretty much. The Bears, I really want to talk about their possibilities because, this is largely going to be a night about the Bears. They're picking number 1 overall. Obviously they're expected to take Caleb Williams, but that is not a slam dunk. And another thing, if you haven't seen it yet, I did my shitty 2024 mock draft, which was just a fun idea. Something I saw on CBS Sports where a guy did basically like the worst case scenarios of the draft. And I thought, you know what, instead of doing just another mock draft where, I'm probably only going to change a handful of picks from what I already had in the last mock draft, I'm going to do that. So I did the 2024 shitty mock draft, the worst case scenarios, the realistic things that really could happen for these teams. So check that out. It's on YouTube right now. And what's funny is that listening to the radio this morning, I've heard a lot of talk about picks that I made on that worst case scenario draft that really could come true. One in particular was the friggin' Cowboys. You got to hear about them no matter what's going on, no matter how irrelevant they are at the moment. You got to hear about the Cowboys. And what I had them doing was actually taking Michael Penix Jr. Did I have them trading up to get him? I think I just had them staying put and taking Michael Penix Jr. and going, quote, all in with a new quarterback. So that, and then here I turn on the radio, and that's on multiple channels. Multiple people are talking about that as a very real possibility for the Cowboys, taking Michael Penix Jr. there in the first round. I'm not saying that's a bad pick. I like him. If he can stay healthy, I think he's a good player. He reminds me a lot of Tua. I did an episode a while back where I did player comps, and his comp for me was Tua. And, it was a little bit lazy maybe in that it's just, sort of the left-handed thing and the injury-prone thing, but they also do have a lot in common in terms of, being an accurate quarterback. And, I think he needs to go to a similar sort of scheme where he can be well protected and have a timing-based system, and he could really be successful. So, it might not be terrible for him, but it's just laughable given, where they are right now and the fact that Jerry Jones has said all in a dozen times over the last couple of months. Anyway, so that's that. I'm done talking about the Cowboys now. Now, we're going to talk about the Titans real quick because the pick I want, the pick that you see in almost every mock draft is Joe Alt. I think he is the safest pick for us and exactly what we need. I know there are a lot of people, like I just talked to somebody at work, for instance, who wants us to take a receiver, wants us to take a Neighbors or a Dunze. That actually, I had Neighbors in my shitty mock draft. Even though that wouldn't be horrible, I think my Neighbors is a really good player. It's just not what we need right now. I mean, we've got DeAndre Hopkins, we've got Calvin Ridley, we've got Treylon Burks, who I think can at least be decent as a number 3 receiver, but we don't have anybody to play left tackle. I'm not saying that I'm super, I'm not. I like Calvin Ridley. You guys know that if you've listened. I love that we got him. I'm not saying that I'm super confident in this receiving core and their ability to stay healthy and be outstanding, but I'm saying that we've got some good receivers. We don't have anybody to play left tackle. It's got to be addressed. So even if we don't do it there at 7, we're going to have to figure out some way to do it in the second round or trade back up or something. And Joe Alt it seems like the one guy that's like a can't miss, like a surefire Pro Bowl level anchor, possibly an all pro caliber left tackle for a team for the next dozen years. That's who I want. Now, there's a lot of talk lately about the Chargers wanting him at number 5. I've said all along that makes no sense to me. It just doesn't. And I think that that's smoke that they're putting out there. I think that the Chargers are intentionally maybe putting stuff out there like that, maybe hoping that we or someone will try to jump up ahead of them or trade up with them. Hey, friend, sorry for the interruption. I had a timer go off on my phone that time, and I'm not going to get upset about that. I'm going to keep rolling. So, anyway, I was saying the Chargers, they have a left tackle already in Rashawn Slater. I don't know why, and I don't think that picking a right tackle at 5 overall makes a ton of sense if you could trade back. I have them trading back in my real mock draft, and as do a lot of others. That's where I have the Vikings jumping up to grab their quarterback. But I've seen other mock drafts that have them taking Latham. It feels like you could trade back, 6, 7, 8 spots and still get him. And why would you spend the 5th overall pick on a left tackle that you're going to try to convert to right tackle? It just doesn't make sense. It's not as premium of a position as left tackle. So why are you spending the 5th overall pick on a guy that's not even his natural position anyway? It just doesn't add up to me. I get that everybody is so wrapped up in this idea that Jim Harbaugh is all about the run game, wants to play bully ball. I get it. But it just doesn't make sense to spend the 5th overall pick on a right tackle at all. especially to draft one whose natural position is left tackle and who should be playing on the left side, and try and put him over there. It doesn't add up for me. Um, so I do think that maybe there's a little bit of just BS to that, but I don't know. Maybe that's what they're really thinking. Who knows? If that does happen, then honestly, I don't know. I had been saying if that does happen, if Alt is off the board, that I hope we get Fashanu and just be happy with that. Move on with him as our left tackle. I mean, up until a couple of months ago, he was regarded as the number one tackle in the draft, but now he's just slowly gone down draft boards as time has gone on. Now, part of that, I think, is just people overthinking things, but part of it is also maybe people are diving more deeply into his tape and his stats and whatever. And now, the one thing that actually kind of concerns me is that I'm hearing some teams are now viewing him more as a guard. And we just went through this last year. That's what would concern me about taking him is we took Peter Skoronski with the 11th or 12th pick last year. I can't remember. And everyone was hoping that he was going to be our left tackle, but a lot of people had him projected at guard. And then what happens? He comes in and he's been a guard ever since, has never even played left tackle so far. He's only played guard. And so we ended up with a guard. Um, Drafting at a guard 12th overall also feels pretty high. So that would concern me about taking Fashanu if he's another guy where you're not sure if he can even play the position. But I up until a couple days ago, or really yesterday, I had never heard that about him. So maybe that's not a big deal. So if Alt is off the board, I think I want us to go Fashanu. Just let's go ahead, get that position taken care of. I think they are both still blue chip guys, even though he's fallen down a lot of draft boards. I think that's the way we go. I've seen mock drafts having take J.C. Latham. That makes zero sense. He is a right tackle. I don't know. That's not a position where we need to draft. We don't need to be trying to convert him to left tackle. Excuse me. It just that doesn't add up either. So if Alt is off the board, I would say Fashanu. We might go Neighbors if he's still there. If not, trade back. Those are our three options then if Alt is off the board. If somebody's willing to give up a decent situation, decent amount of picks, decent haul to trade back, then I would say let's just go ahead and trade back because we're still going to be able to get a good tackle. There are so many really good offensive linemen in the first probably 50 picks of this draft. That I think we'd still be able to get a good one and be able to acquire more draft capital, which we could really use. We don't have a third round pick this year. So that would be probably my best case scenario if Alt is off the board is we just either take Fashanu or trade back. I like Neighbors. I really do. I am not one of the people who has him ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr., as it seems like some have now. But I do think he is potentially very good, number one explosive level receiver. But we have to address that position. We just have to. And you could say drafting just for need, it puts you in a bind. It's maybe not the best thing. You want to be able to draft the best player available, but given our position at 7 overall, it feels like we should be able to do both. We should be able to address that position of need, but also take the best player available, which, would be Joe Alt. Anyway, so that'll be my Titans talk, at least for now. I'm sure I'll pepper in more as we go along. Still got a lot I want to talk about, and not as much time as I wanted to do it. I wanted to talk about the Bears, wanted to talk about some stuff going on with the Bengals, and possibly some other quarterback stuff there at the top. So I'm going to take a quick break and check my notes, and I will be right back. Alrighty, friends, welcome back. So I wanted to do, something that I do in most of these episodes where, you guys know I listen to sports radio on the way to take the kids to daycare and then on the way to work. And so when I do the podcast, I end up, responding to a lot of the stuff or giving my input on things that I've heard many of these mainstream experts talk about. One thing that I heard on Fox Sports, which I don't listen to that often, But one thing I heard, because there was a lot of Michael Penix talk going on today, and this was about him. It was somebody criticizing him for the way he left Indiana to go to Washington. And his thing was, he's not sure about a quarterback who, excuse me, would leave a situation and basically go be a one and done. Or no, wait, actually, he was talking about Jaden Daniels. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, he was talking about Jaden Daniels. Anyway, he left Arizona State to go and basically be, try to improve his draft stock and become a pro quarterback at LSU. And he was saying he didn't like somebody who does that. That means he's not a leader. That means he doesn't stick through adversity. And I just think that's ridiculous. I mean, in the modern era with the transfer portal, I don't think that is in any way an indication of a guy's leadership qualities or his character. I mean, everybody transfers nowadays, it's just part of it. So, maybe if we were talking about this 15 years ago, it might be a different story. But now I just don't think that's a fair criticism to put on a guy to say because he transferred, I'm going to question his leadership abilities. That's just stupid to me. So go ahead and I'm going to get that one out of the way. Um, Another thing briefly that I was going to talk about is what's going on with the Bengals. They tagged T. Higgins. He obviously wants a long-term deal, and that doesn't seem to be happening, so he requests a trade. Now, yesterday, apparently Trey Hendrickson has also requested a trade. I don't know where that came from. That seemed to kind of come out of nowhere, but it makes me wonder what's going on with the Bengals. Is there something wrong there? Why these guys are wanting out, or are these strictly just, what they seem like, which are leverage plays for better contracts? But to have two of your star players, two of your better players, requesting trades here in this offseason, it's got to make you a little concerned if you're a Bengals fan and wonder, what's the deal here? I don't know, honestly, but I'd be interested to find out. And that leads me into another topic, which is I wonder what players are going to be on the trade block for today. Um, they talked about it some on the radio going into this. They asked about some star guys like Justin Jefferson because we know Minnesota appears to be pretty much desperate to move up and take a quarterback. And so we've heard talk about could Justin Jefferson be on the table? I don't think so. I don't think he should be at all. I think that should just immediately be, let's throw that idea out the window. That is not even a discussion. Because part of what's going to make that situation so great for a young quarterback are the receivers. You get to come into a situation where you've got the best receiver in football, excuse me, and then another budding star and Jordan Addison on the other side, and a great offensive-minded coach in Kevin O'Connell. But, if you trade away Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the game, still in the middle of his prime, that would just be, no, that's not worth it. Now, whatever this Justin Herbert talk is, that's just stupid. I'm not going to even go into that. That's ridiculous. But one that I did hear that I think, or actually there are two receivers that I heard that I think really could be on the table, and that would be Davante Adams for the Raiders. Because if they're going to try to do anything meaningful, they need to at least be fishing in the quarterback market and seeing if it's a possibility for them to trade up. And if they could go up and get a Drake May or even a J.J. McCarthy, then I think they should be doing what they need to do to make that happen. And one thing that could make that happen would be Davante Adams. Unlike Justin Jefferson, he's not right in the middle of his prime. Davante's still obviously very good, but he is, at the tail end of his prime. I don't know his age, but I know he's into his 30s now. And I think that would be maybe a possible chip that you could use to try to trade up. Brandon Ayuk, same thing. We've heard about him all offseason, wanting a new contract. Are the 49ers going to be able to afford to give him one? Probably not. So I think he could be someone that actually does get moved. And maybe the 49ers want to move up and grab somebody or just, acquire an extra first round pick. I mean, they could probably get a late first round pick for him. Um, I don't know though. At least get a second round pick for Brandon Ayuk. So that's another name that I think could be on the table. Trey Hendrickson now apparently is on the table, or could be. Even though what we're hearing from the Bengals is that they do not want to trade him. They've also said the same thing about T. Higgins, but I think both of those guys could be on the move tonight. So we could see some actual veteran players move tonight, as well as the obvious expected trades for picks that are going to be moving, where teams are going to be moving up and down the board. We could be seeing some veteran players on the move as well. So it's a lot of exciting stuff. A lot of changes could be coming today. Not just for the teams that are picking at the top and picking quarterbacks. We could see some excitement as we go further down into the tail end of the first round and even beyond. So anyway, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, hey friends, back again. So I've still got a couple more topics that I wanted to get to, but I don't have much time, so I'm going to try to get through them pretty quickly. One thing is, it's surprising and strange, and just shows how quickly things change. The fact that everyone seems to love the direction that the Bears are heading in now, given the fact that a few months ago, back in October, so like 6 months ago, I think it was October, whenever the trade deadline was, everybody was just demolishing them and tearing them to bits for giving up a second round pick for Montez Sweat. I mean, that was just the worst trade anybody could imagine. Why would they do that? They're supposed to be in rebuild mode. What are they doing? That's going to be a valuable second round pick, and blah, 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 blah. Everybody just trashed them and tore them to pieces. I also was, maybe not as harsh, but I also said I don't know that trade makes a ton of sense. Because of the same reasons. It does feel like that's probably going to be an early second round pick. And anyway, it was just strange. But, people on TV and on the radio were just demolishing them. And now, nothing, not that much has changed. Oh, and also, few months after that, or 2-3 months later, a lot of the same people are saying that the Bears need to just stick with Justin Fields. He's shown promise. He's shown that he can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. They need to just stick with him and take either an elite player, number 1 overall, or trade back and acquire more picks. But Justin Fields needs to be the guy there. I mean, you were hearing that from, it seemed like about 50% or more of the experts on TV and on the radio. And obviously that's not what they did. They traded away Justin Fields. They really did not get much in return for him. Not nearly as much as, they were hoping and some people were projecting. I mean, we heard early on in the discussions about that, like right after the season ended, that, they were maybe going to get a second round pick for him. I don't know what they ended up getting, but it wasn't much at all. Like, it might have been a 4. I don't remember, but it was not much. So they make another move that the experts kind of bash. And now here we are, just a couple months after that, and everybody seems to love the Bears and the direction that they're heading. It's so strange to me. Like, the same people who were just tearing them to bits for the off-season moves and the personnel moves that they were making, now for some reason love the personnel moves that they've made and love the direction that they're heading and think that the Bears are a team on the rise. And it's just crazy to me, the sort of hypocrisy and how quickly these people change their opinions and how they never admit when they change their minds or made a mistake. But, and I guess some things did change. They did some things in free agency that were positive. Adding Keenan Allen, honestly, I wasn't crazy about that move for them. I feel like he's past his prime and he's just an injury waiting to happen now. But it's not like they got tied to him for a long time. I also didn't think DeAndre Swift was a huge deal. It didn't seem like that was a big, meaningful move like a lot of people seem to think. But, I do think even though maybe I'm not as quite as positive on the Bears as others, I'm also not as hard on the Bears as they were prior. I do think that this has got to be such a super exciting night for the Bears. And obviously, if they get this right, if they hit on these 2 picks, this could be a defining moment for a franchise that hasn't had a franchise quarterback in my lifetime. If they hit on, which they need to just don't even think about anything else. It needs to be Caleb Williams. I don't think there's any reason to think they are thinking anything else. Go ahead and get him. I don't, like I've said, I don't think he's maybe the generational talent that some people do. I don't put him up there as a prospect with Andrew Luck and Trevor Lawrence, but I do think that he's, just like one level down from that. Like, I think he's as close to a can't-miss quarterback as we've seen in the last few years. So go ahead and do that. And then at 9, who do you take? I'm not a huge fan of Odunze either, but that seems to be the popular pick, and I could be wrong. I just, I don't know. I can't even explain necessarily why I'm not a huge fan of his. It's kind of like I keep thinking Mike Williams, and I've never been a Mike Williams fan. I don't think Mike Williams, he looked like a bust the first couple of years of his career, and it wasn't until he and Justin Herbert started connecting. I think Justin Herbert made Mike Williams actually better than he was. And for some reason, that's who I keep thinking of when it comes to Odunze. And so, but I could be wrong. I'm not certain about that. I'm just not as crazy about him as others are. Brock Bowers, honestly, would be a great addition there. Now, I know they already have Cole Kmet, but having 2 tight ends like that, and they've already got a decent offensive line. They have obviously added Darnell Wright last year. They've got an okay young left tackle. I can never remember his name. But they could add an elite receiver. They could maybe get Dallas Turner and put him on the other side of Montez Sweat. They could maybe get Byron Murphy and get some, up the middle pressure for the defense. I mean, there are a lot of ways they could trade back and acquire even more draft capital, or maybe another great veteran player. For the 9 overall, they could get somebody really good, and maybe they add Devontae Adams, and and it would also, and maybe they add Devontae Adams and the what would it be, 13th overall pick. Maybe they just have to trade back 4 spots and you get Devontae Adams. I think that's realistic. I don't think that's crazy. If the board shakes out a certain way and one of those good quarterbacks is still available there at 9, I think that's very possible that a team like the Raiders wants to jump on that. So the Bears just have a lot of options, and if they get this right, they could be set up for the foreseeable future as a real a team on the rise and soon to be contender. Could make Matt Eberflus more than just the lame duck coach that it seemed like he was going to be. Because if they're successful, obviously, anyway. So, it's exciting for the Bears. It's also exciting for the Commanders, and the Patriots, and, maybe the Vikings, although you got to be a little bit not quite as hopeful and optimistic and positive if you're a Vikings or Broncos or Raiders fans, because those are where the quarterback areas are. And the Giants thing, and honestly, I'm kind of just driving around right now. I need to actually get to work, but I wanted to finish this thought. The Giants thing, I just don't know that that's the route they want to go. Now, if Drake May falls in their lap there at 6, then yes, that's what they should do. But they've got so many needs on that team, and I don't think J.J. McCarthy is a can't miss. I don't think that about Penix or Nix. And I do think that most likely the top 3 guys are going to be gone in the top 3 picks. Depending on what it would cost, if you want to trade up and get Drake May, if he's still there at 3, I think that would be the wrong move for the Patriots. I think they should take him. But if they're willing to make a deal, then maybe the Giants do that. But otherwise, unless it's him or Daniels, which Caleb Williams is going to be off the board. But if they could get Drake May or Jaden Daniels, then sure, I would say the Giants should do it. Otherwise, I do not think they should be making a deal to try to get J.J. McCarthy and move up a couple spots. I don't think they should be taking him at 6. I think they should go ahead and take the best receiver there, which is probably going to be Malik Neighbors, or, they have a lot of positions where they need help. But the areas where quarterbacks are likely to go are 1, 2, 3. I know we've heard a lot of talk about the Patriots possibly trading down. I just don't think they should, and I don't think that they will. Then things are going to get very interesting for Arizona because their phone's going to be blowing up at that point. But it's 1, 2, 3, and then you've got Arizona picking the Chargers, and then the Giants at 6, which I don't think is as quarterback needy as those other teams, because even though I don't like Daniel Jones, he's at least, he's somebody. And then after that, it's 11, 12, 13. Those are the teams needing quarterbacks. And that's the Vikings, Broncos, and Raiders. So going to be some, in those, that first 13 picks of the draft, I think is going to be a ton of excitement. And I'm really excited to see which way things go. One other thing that I wanted to talk about, maybe I can just, save this for the show tonight. Yeah, matter of fact, I will. I'm going to save that for the show tonight. So, tune in and watch us live, Talking Sports at Work on YouTube. We're going to be doing crazy, fun, silly kid stuff and draft coverage. So, tune in, check us out. I'm going to get to work, and I will see you guys this evening. Have a good day. Love you. Bye.